to The Hunt, charting the path to your next career move. I'm Peter Boyd, a resident fellow at the Yale Center for Business and Environment. This is one of the CBEY open workshops. I'm also a lecturer at the Yale School of the Environment and founder and CEO of my own company, Time for Good. So thanks for answering the questions. In terms of sort of welcome today, diversity of experience, lived experience is welcome everywhere, especially in this particular room, and your variety of identities that you hold. In fact, that's the way that we'll succeed long term in our lives, but also in our job searches as well. Inclusion, hopefully you feel included already, but anything we can do or say to make you feel more included, please let us know. Be present, fully present if you can. Be kind, where there's all the questions or in the comments. And then it's great to be fully present on these things. If possible, I always say like you sort of use a pen rather than a keyboard. You're much more likely for your brain to process what you're listening to and what you're going to do next if you use a pen. That in mind. So in terms of the next sort of less than an hour, I know we're just grabbing you for a lunch hour here. Hopefully you want to be more connected, become more comfortable and excited even about the pursuit of your next opportunity, connecting that pursuit to your purpose, to your identity. On a structure, experiment and then adapt a structured approach that could sharpen your story, your narrative, and also marry that head and heart and the brain and the gut to your search as well. And then cover tactics that could help maximize your time on this effort. So sort of a mixture of sort of structure and take a step back, as well as sort of lean in and tactics. So this is how we're going to do the use of the hour. Some intros and some starting points. As I said, I open with a check-in poll. I'd have some more questions for you as well in a second. So that'll be about 10 minutes or so. Then a framework and a structure to look at this, some strategies and tactics, and hopefully we'll have some time for discussion and next steps at the end. So let's get this going on the intros and the starting points and how we're sort of coming together here. Firstly, sort of my answers to the questions I set to you, Peter Boyd, my two flags, Scotland and the US. How am I feeling today? Excited and blessed to be here, a bit stressed by the state of the world and the job searches, hence creating a workshop like this and hopefully follow-on actions that you might ask for, or we get connected and I can help in some other ways. So that's my words. In terms of how I'm feeling for gratitude today, family, wife and 3 kids under 12, growing fast. And I'm also very grateful to be both a student and a teacher. I teach at Yale, but I'm also studying in a mid, or some people would tease me with my gray hair, a late career master's at Cambridge. And I coach outside Yale, some senior executives all the way, sort of through nonprofits and for-profits, etc. But I'm also studying with the International Coaching Federation on how to be better at that. In terms of my angle on the subject today, nonlinear experience across multiple sectors. So I've had experience in the private sector, McKinsey Virgin, now in my own company, Time for Good, nonprofit, helped start the Carbon War Room, climate change with Richard Branson back in 2009, the B team leading up to the Paris Agreement, and now volunteer on the UN Race to Zero. I'm on the expert peer review group, co-chair that with Tom Hale from Oxford. On the government side, worked at the UK Department of Energy and Climate Change and the US Department of Energy Loan Program Office. Education is in Yale and also Coursera, where we open this up for the world, which I'll show you in a bit later. And then I jokingly put in a 5th sector of long runs. I did a little run across the desert at age 30 and again at age 50. But again, I think I learned from these different sectors and try and get that out into the world for everybody, mixing those sectors and that non-linear career. In terms of what that purpose is, I really just see it as sort of leaders maximizing their time for good. A world where that's true is a world that I'm very happy to get up for every day. And then as a mission, like what do I try and do? And we try and do at Time for Good and indeed the piece of Yale that I work with as well, is that how can we uplift leaders wherever they are to focus on what's most important and use a connected leadership tools, which I will cover briefly in a second. So that's me. That's like who's bringing the workshop today. Back to you. I want to get a few more questions about what you're doing and where you're at. And they're obviously useful to me for the next 45 minutes or so, but they're also hopefully just the active reflection might also be useful to you. So I'm just going to present again. And if you could get your cell phone out, if you're later in joining as well, feel free to scan that QR code, go to the website link, or join by text. So hopefully, as it says there, the question is gone. The question here is A or B. Like how are you approaching this workshop? I actually do want it to be a workshop. I'm up for some work live. I have a pen ready. Or to be honest, I'm walking the dog. I'm on my lunch hour, and I'm just listening for some tips. I just wanted to see how active and how much pause do I put in to help you think because your pen is ready and you have a piece of paper next to you. It's going to be a classic 80-20 there for a second. 70-30. Okay, so a bit more workshop, bit more reflection, give you some space. Feel free, as is always the case with these sort of things in webinars, is to put any questions into the chat or Q&A, and we'll try and get to them as well. Okay, so and I've got like a fairly, I know there's 60, 70 people online and 20 answers. So there's probably more in the camp that says, to be honest, I'm just listening for some tips because I haven't even put the answer to the poll. Okay, next one. What would make this session most useful and interesting to you right now? Like when you read the LinkedIn piece, if that's how you came through, or the CBEY newsletter, like what are you needing right now? Just in a word. And if you have more than one word, like 2 words, please put an underscore in between because that keeps those 2 words together on this word cloud. Bit of clarity, thank you. And that's a big word already, so more than one person said that, it seems. Vision. A job, I can't do that one, unfortunately. Ideas, okay. Efficiency, that's interesting. Confidence is a good one as well. Networking, purpose. We're going to start with purpose, so thank you for that. Clarify vision. I think those 2 are together. Direction. Direction. Okay. Lots to go in there. Thank you. I'm going to skip the next one, which was a more of a multiple choice version. Actually, no, this is actually potentially useful because, like, where are you at your current stage here? Where are you in the job search? Are you thinking through the opportunity areas? Are you like how to improve the hustle, get in the door? Are you you're actually keeping leads warm, closing the deal, or are you sort of earlier stage general tips, tricks, and frameworks to get moving? Okay. Mixed bag, but with a leading piece on improving the hustle. Thanks those that are representing the whole crew here with some fast answers. Much appreciated. Anyone else can join at any point with the QR code. A couple more left. So that was what you wanted to take out of the session. What could you bring others that are hunting right now? Because that's one of the pieces that I'm going to be talking about is job hunting and the hunt as a solo effort and job hunting as a community effort. Yeah, leads, empathy, awesome words to start us. What a fantastic group of words. Can we get an emoji in there as well, just to make it more colorful? We don't want people to bring that kind of face. But empathy, support, great. A voice, that looks like possibility. Leads, the strength of an elephant. But empathy and support. And I think that's a really good one. The one I'm not seeing there might be, and we'll kind of talk about this earlier next, is like how do you keep yourselves accountable and nudge each other? Maybe that's the bicep that's just appeared. Okay. Honesty is a great one as well. Okay. Just wanted to see where we're at as a barometer here. How's the last few weeks, months, years, whatever you think of here? I used to have this question for COVID, but look, in a post-COVID, but potentially post-January world for you, depending on what area you're working in? Yeah, is it the push you need? Are you feeling a four? Is it really interesting right now? It caused me to pause, think differently. Definitely unsettled. I'm completely at a loss. Okay. Just as I read this, and as I say, I do both teaching and coaching and one-on-one support, as well as trying to help out with group supports. I think those that find yourselves on the fours and threes, like you could probably take stuff straight from today. Two is that sort of let's take some time, strategize, sort of get comfortable and move on. And then those that put in one, hopefully some of the stuff is useful today, but there's also some self-care and sort of family care, friends care, to get you started, as well as embarking on the tools that we've got here for you. Okay, almost done. Yeah, what kind of opportunity are you looking for? Acceleration, promotion within the same org, with a different org, but in the same industry. I'm at a fresh junction. Internship, more temporary roles. And hopefully this is not just useful for me, like in this first quarter, but also for you when you're actually talking about these things to others. Um, Sometimes some of these words might be helpful when you're explaining it to a network of people that you want to help you. That you say, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going next. Have you got ideas? Have you got leads? Have you got help? So helpful. Thank you. Again, all over the map. So again, when you, to the extent you can connect with others that are hunting right now, this is also a useful question, I think, to talk to each other. And then I think this is my last question here, is like, if you have a list right now, then answer A to F. If you don't have a list in your head, but like, have you got a list of opportunities that you are hunting from? And if so, how does it exist? Like, how does it exist? Is it in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, like some sort of notes app? You've got paper, you've got post-it notes in one place and Excel in another and PowerPoint in another. Like, where is this stuff? And again, this is sort of hopefully good, helpful, not only for me, but for you in terms of self-awareness. Like, where is that stuff? I should really get my list in one place. That's sort of the 40, 56% of you are on FNG, that sort of idea of like, how can we gather? And we'll cover some of that just now. Actually, with my favorite answer, which I will put my thumb on the scale later, is the next top answer, which is getting it into Excel. But even those with an Excel list, hopefully we'll have some tips there. Thanks very much. Okay, let's get on to some frameworks, hopefully, that are helpful to you. Okay, so before almost like we start on this, a couple of frameworks that I think are actually before the connected leadership framework rather, and how do you sort of anchor your purpose and pull it into to your job search. A couple of frameworks that I think are actually helpful that are out there on the internet from Wait But Why. Nice, he's very spot on blog in terms of sort of complicated ideas distilled. This left-hand chart is the sort of knowing where you are on your hunt and indeed your career in terms of that, keeping that humility sweet spot, going up from bottom left to top right, of anchoring within both conviction and knowledge to get somewhere new and higher and sort of where you want to go. And to know yourself if you are sort of dropping off the curve and saying, like, I feel like I'm insecure, imposter syndrome, all that stuff fits down that bottom bit where your knowledge is actually more than your conviction that you're good at this stuff. And then also, just as hard is that piece where we sort of float up off the humility sweet spot and become more convinced that we're great and brilliant versus our actual knowledge. And I loved his follow-on curve, or the Wait But Why's follow-on curve a little bit later, saying like this might be the job search. Like, I'm really good. I know I just got to find the perfect job, the insecure canyon. And then really what is happening for the rest of our careers is this grown up mountain, this piece of navigating thoughtfully and try and get bigger and better. And also another diagram from the Wait But Wise guys is like to focus forward. And you've got this incredible path. Everyone on this call, I'm sure, has this incredible path to where you got to. That's the paths closed, but all the black lines are the paths that are closed. That fantastic line up to the present is your life, and this is what we're talking about now: the future and the life paths that are open to you. So, in the strange times that we're in many countries around the world right now, and especially, chatting here from the Center of Business and Environment in the environment as well, so much change. Another framework that I sort of what find it helpful for people to anchor into is the spheres of concern, control, and influence. And the idea to approach these in quite a thoughtful order, especially for those that sort of feel a bit lost in that curve, the bar chart that says you like this is really this time is really sort of messing around with my view of my career, is to first, as it says by the numbers, first look at your circles of concern and write those items down, and then go back right in and say like, okay, but what can I control? What can I do about it? And hopefully the outcome of some of these tools and what you're already doing in your hunt will be part of that piece. The number two, like I can do this. And then the gray area, which sometimes takes quite long to think about, is what's that stuff that's in the circle of influence in between the circle of control and circle of concern. And sometimes that might involve moving some of the list across into that third bucket. When you say, or renaming it. It's not quite in either circle there, it's in that circle of influence. And that's examples of how you're feeling, what's in your world, what's happening to you. But then the other one is then same order, actions that you can actually take. And then circling and asterisking the top three that would make the most positive impact to you and those around you, and especially to the extent you're hunting for a job, sort of like what would make the most impact to your next move. So those two pieces, I just wanted to sort of almost like frame with sort of wisdom far longer and decades older than anything I'm going to give you today, with that idea of like anchoring into like, where are you on that confidence and knowledge? Where are you with your circles of concern and control? And then like, now let's talk about what can you actually control? And this is anchored into the connected leadership framework that I teach at Yale and coach in office hours and outside. And the idea is based on a logic flow, so much larger than a career search, about just knowing why you're here and those around you are here. Then knowing what's important, the really important stuff to spend your time on, visualize the intended destination of what those things are, and then drive your actions from those first three and get it on a page when you can. Those 4 steps I've sort of distilled into 4 Ps that hopefully is easier for everyone to remember: purpose, questioning and confirming it. And quite a few people said that on their opening word cloud, like, how can I get into my purpose and articulate it more? Priorities, clarifying and personalizing what to spend the time on and what is important to you. We're going to do that with the job search. Potential, a sort of a vivid view of what it looks like. And then progress, holding yourself to account. And I think the interesting thing about a hunt is holding yourself to account, and then yourselves. That was one that was sort of potentially missing on the word cloud about what you can offer each other. You can offer sort of sort of accountability. You can offer a push and a shove forward to get things moving. This framework, and indeed the idea of leading oneself first, then leading a team, and then leading system change, it's all referred to today, but tangentially, and it's all in a course that's free. Yale and Coursera, in conjunction with the Center of Business and Environment, Yale School of Environment and the School of Management, we got together and put this on Coursera. So to the extent any of the sort of the grounding pieces on leadership is useful to you, it's a completely free course unless you want a certificate at the end, and it's on Coursera and also on those 2 links. And I think Farzana can post those 2 links into the chat for you so you can click on them later, in addition to them being on the slides. So this is almost like the kind of connected leadership tools grounding that I said I'm passionate about getting into the world. This is how we apply it to the hunt now. So in order to have, like, in my opinion, like a best in class hunt for the job that you really want, is to know what gets you excited, to articulate then what's important to you and what makes you important to others. and then drive your hunt from these first two things and work off one spreadsheet, one Excel spreadsheet or Google Doc or Google Sheets. So that's the idea of what we're going to take you through now. And so to take the four P's in terms of the hunt, the idea is like clarifying why you're here, what you want, what really gets you going, and what's important and what's not about your search. And then priorities, get a highly personalized list of opportunities to pursue and doors to knock on. I like a really targeted approach. There's a cliche, sort of like there's no traffic jam on the extra mile. It's like, how do you create that mile where they're like nobody, less people are looking for the thing you're looking at because you're so clear what you're looking for. Then vividly imagine what it's like after that hunt, constantly update that picture. That's what you're working for. And then have a multi-tab spreadsheet that keeps you focused, honest with yourself and others around you that are also looking and improving. So that's what we're that's the sort of framework that I want to nudge you along with today and take you through. Let's go to the first P of purpose. I'm going to dive in at relative speed. Because people are sort of, there's quite a lot of people here just sort of listening for tips. But all these resources will be available afterwards in a sort of PowerPoint that you can take, print, and spend time on. So the bigger piece of purpose that I do in my leadership course relies on these 6 questions into 2 groups, sort of 3 groups of 3. The idea of like the junction, until there was a recent government memo, a fork in the road, I felt was a really great way of looking at it. But that sort of junction, those choices ahead of you, where are you now to take that green and black diagram of wait, but why? What decisions and choices led you to be at this fork in the road? And like here now, but more generally, like yes, the exogenous stuff has happened to you, but what choices and key things have you done to get to here? And then the 1B is like, what attributes have you brought to this fork in the road? Like, what makes you a great person to have around? This is incredibly useful to almost like self-inflate and know that you are good at these things. What do people that know you well tell you you're good at? On 2 is your horizons, and these are really useful for the job search too. It's like, what gets you excited about the 5 to 10-year older you? I'm not talking about like I've got a job. Clearly, you want one, or you want the next one, or you want the promotion. There's quite a variety in the bar charts there. But like, what gets you excited to be you? What does it feel like to be the 5 to 10 older you? And then 2B is the artificially short horizon. If 2A is the artificially long one. If you knew you only had a few months left, like on the planet, what would you ensure gets done? What are those things? And write those down. And then on 3, the idea here is like, what's the stuff that you can't help but be you, your inner engine? When are you in flow state? What activities cause you to forget to eat and drink? And even though we're talking about a job hunt here on this, it's really like at work. Yes, of course, but at play and leisure and back in childhood, what was that? And then the big why you're ready for it in 3B. And hopefully all of this, and indeed the leadership course, that to the extent this is useful to you to dive into more, hopefully grounds you in something far stronger and bigger in your leadership life than a job hunt. But it is helpful in the job hunt. Because what we're trying to do is making the hunt better for all of us, including the people that will hire you, is having a much stronger sense of self, have a much stronger sense of what our stories are that we want to tell, and then sell ourselves into that next role. But it's almost like it has to start from the inner and go to the outer. That's a piece on sort of purpose in general. I find these extra questions over the years of coaching, office hours, etc., also useful if you're trying to work out why, and that came up in the quiz at the start, but also like, how do I articulate that why in my job hunt? So here's some extra questions that you might want to not need to jot them all down. As I say, we'll make the whole slide deck available for everyone afterwards, but then maybe jot down the questions you think that's interesting to me, like as in the answer to that, and that question is interesting to me. I've got a sort of a huge or nothing category that's developed over the years, and that is things like what coast, what geography. It's important to get out the country. It's important to stay in the country. East Coast, West Coast, or it doesn't matter at all. That tends to be sort of huge or nothing. Something to do with your partner or your family situation. Again, huge or nothing. I'm completely flexible. This is the right time in my life to move. Or it's like, no, I have to be in this radius because. Things to do with your faith, your identity, all the things that we talked about that makes you you at the start might be huge. You have to find like people. or that doesn't matter to you. And then there might be others in this kind of completely gating item of like, I have to have these. So I'll maybe just give you just a couple of seconds, scribble down what are the huge or nothings for you? And then on the tactical wise, it's like what these have kind of come up as good questions or useful questions for some over the years that might get you beyond what I call the maybe less important, the industry sector, the direct experience. Like, do you have what it takes? Is it a 501(c)(3) or a private sector or something else? We tend to fixate on the ones on the right, but the middle ones potentially are potentially more useful to you. For instance, what problems are you really passionate about solving? What frustrates you? And this is like part of the world that like you want to lean in and solve. Should these problems be core to the org's mission or part of what they do? Give you a good example in sustainability. Sort of, do you want to sort of work in solar energy, or do you want to, or saving the rainforest directly, or do you want to be like, I don't know, Patagonia, which is almost like the least evil of the clothing companies, or one of. And that means like, sort of, yes, it's important to Patagonia, but it's not like they're not actively involved in addressing the climate crisis, or indeed some parts of it might be, but you get the flavor of like, do you want how core to the problem in the first question do you want to be in the organization? Is it in their vision and mission statement, or is it sort of related? Or indeed, to take the third answer here, sometimes we could be incredibly motivated by being a fixer-upper. Like, I know this one is just done something wrong in the thing I'm passionate about, and I want to take them up. I've chatted to a chief sustainability officer recently. That was exactly it. They saw the picture of the effects on the environment of the company that they said, I need to join that company because I do not want that lake looking like that with that factory. Or do I want to learn from best in class and make them even better or learn myself? Consulting side, client side energy is very different. That idea of sort of like that more sort of, I'd say that more higher pressure constant of a client briefing consultants to work for them. And then the wave of a consultant says deliverables are due. Then you have to find another client or sell them the next study, etc. Very different energies. And again, it sort of suits you at different times of your career. How small, how large, how startup, how established, you get the picture. So hopefully that middle section of list there gets you thinking about what questions resonate with you. Maybe just to sort of pause, to let you digest the slide, pick off what you think is useful, but also if you could pop into the chat, is there any particular questions there that you find more useful, something you hadn't thought of so far? Anybody want to sort of put into the chat, or another question that I've missed here that you found important for you or your colleagues as you engage on the hunt? Feel free to put anything into the chat if you can. I think we've had some technical difficulties, so I'm not sure if it's even possible.
It seems to be saying the chat's disabled. I'm not sure why it's not showing on our side, but you're welcome to comment in the Q&A.
Thank you. So it's teasingly
So there is one question in here,
listed.
Peter.
Yeah.
If you can speak a little more to the fixed upper versus best in class.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there is sort of life stage of you as well as life stage of the company. The idea of like is there like let's take my apparel example, is there a case that you feel drawn to Patagonia and learning from how Patagonia have done things in sustainable apparel to maybe then go to another one later once you've risen through the ranks at Patagonia. Or do you feel compelled to look at sort of an apparel company with a bad brand value in a sustainability, haven't looked at it yet, and you say like I want to go in there, but because I don't know, there's a new chief sustainability officer or there's a new chief marketing officer, and I know that they believe in this stuff, so I want to go in and fix that company up with that person. Or indeed, you could be senior enough where you could be that person that goes in. So that's the idea of sort of like in the issues you care about and want to fix, Like, do you want to keep learning from a company that's brilliant or an organization that's brilliant, or do you want to take learnings and address them? So thoughts in here. I've asked for this sort of the chat, and it seems like since it's disabled, let's skip that for now. Also, from the sake of time as well. But the idea is like with these two worksheets, almost like hand in hand, you might have a sort of help you form a really good picture on what sort of you want to do next, anchored sort of much more clearly to your purpose. And in fact, like if I was to sort of unpack why I use these questions and how they might help you in the future, the first one here is to almost like hopefully your answers to 1A help you anchor yourself in this place where you're at with those like this one chosen green path, but then this myriad of paths ahead, like anchor you with you and help you own your choices. In 1B, this is especially important for like where people are at as hunters right now. This is the stuff you know you're good at. This is the boost that you should give yourself. You know you're good at the things that you put into 1B. On 2A, as you search, this is like hopefully the answers you put to this one are keeping your eye on the prize. Is your current search actually building towards this? It's always a danger, I think, of putting a list of companies that you think might be hiring versus, sort of actually really focusing on these people might have less chance of hiring, but I can come across as much more passionate, much more interested, and in line with where I want to head in 5 to 10 years' time. Oh, sorry. Let's get it back to there. And then in 2B, I find that these are really useful for your priorities. Like, and it could be like you put some whole life things in there, like spending time with family and things like that. Or you could be like, I just want to do this and work. It's this like whatever you put in there, that question tends to hack the Eisenhower matrix of all that is important is not necessarily urgent and vice versa. It's taken out the box of the urgent and important and left you in 2B with the important, not urgent. And then 3A, I think each one of these is useful, like job crafting. Like you want to get a job that has the thing that you put in 3A1, as in this gives you flow. So what jobs have that thing in it in the working week? In 3A2, I always keep in mind like you need whatever you put in there to recharge. And indeed, if you're going to an interview and networking hard, is this like you need this in your week as you have the energy to keep going. And then 3A3, so why ask about something in childhood? I actually quite think that the job search, if it's framed for you and what you put in 3A3, it might be an interestingly strength-giving move. Whether you loved cycling out into the wilderness, if you loved climbing trees, if you loved building Lego, it's like that's the analogy potentially for this new adventure. This new venture is just another day on the bike, just another tree to climb, whatever it is. That's a strong analogy for you. And then the last one is this like, you might sound cliched, it might be vague, but just the idea of like, is your mission and your calling and what you're doing every day and searching for this job, are they aligning over time? And then what I suggest people do, which is even more powerful in the hunt, but powerful for any leader at any stage, can you condense these things into like a personal vision, a personal mission statement that is much longer term than the next job? It's something that you want to get done. Be it like mine, like uplift leaders wherever they are. It's just like is that something that sort of that's what you want to do? And then it's a great checklist for like that job helps me do that. In terms of the three columns of questions, what I find is like the huge or nothings is like, please don't ignore who you are. Like otherwise, we tend to, or there's a risk of getting into the wrong job, or the wrong direction, and that would be terrible. So it's like don't ignore the things that are important there, and also don't get waylaid by a shiny light over here that isn't actually huge. It is nothing. On this one, as I say, over the years, this middle group of questions tend to be really helpful with filtering the job, while as the ones in the gray may help, but may help less than you think that how necessary they are. So that's the thought on purpose is just this idea of really taking time. I think is a huge return on investing of your time to sort of basically think, what is my personal purpose? Connect with colleagues, connect with people that are searching, develop that impact statement. If you Google Ikigai, you get this nice thought, which I think is especially useful on the job hunt. This idea of like what the world needs, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what you love doing. And hopefully you get that, you're searching for that piece in the middle. Before I switch to priorities, I just want to check maybe with Cass, is there any questions that we've missed on this section before we get to sort of how do we prioritize our hunt?
No, I think you're good. Although someone did contribute another relevant question for them, which is which hierarchy level is important for me, and am I willing to trade content for influence? And I thought that one was a good one.
That's a great one. Yes, yes. Yep. And that idea of sometimes lateral moves or even downward diagonal moves to get to the next place. I think that's a great one. Thank you. Thank you for somebody there. And thanks for going over to the Q&A with the disabled chat.
The chat is now working also.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Excellent. All right. Feel free to use whichever. And thank you, Casper and Frizana, for keeping an eye on both. So in terms of the next peer priorities, again, leadership framework notwithstanding, the one I do think about a lot, like across life, and leadership and everything, is that the old adage of the rocks, pebbles, and sand in the jar, initially popularized by Stephen Covey back in, I think, the 50s or 60s, the 1950s or 60s, that is, a long time ago. But the idea is, I think, is incredibly robust to say we want to live life on the top row. We want to put sort of our rocks in the jar first, the big things. Then the medium things have a way of fitting in around the edges. Then the sand, the small stuff, can fit around the edges. And we don't want to live life on the bottom row where we let the small stuff go in first, and then the medium stuff, and then get to the end of life or the job search, and only one or two of our rocks have got in. So again, another thought on terms of how to do that for your life in general, but for your job hunt, let's turn to that. And what I tend to think about here that might be helpful for you, and however big a piece of paper you've got, this is always a good one, I think, to sketch out. And we've got one in our PowerPoint workbook if you want it at the end, is the idea of two triangles. What makes the opportunity that you're looking for crucial? Like what of the opportunity is crucial for you to get right? And then what about me should be great for them? And then ask yourself why down a few levels. And what I mean by that is if you can get good at saying, I'm really looking for a job that is a mixture of this and this, that one sentence is very powerful because it helps you articulate, it helps the interviewer go, got it, you want what we have. But it also helps that enormous amount of people that hopefully you realize has wind in your sails and is trying to get you, or trying to help you. If you've got that sentence, it's hopefully made up of like these things. A, B, C, and D are the things that I want to get right. Like I want to have these in my job. They're really crucial to me. And then if they're tight, you might have these wonderful stories, B1, B2, B3, that feed into B. So like, I really want to work in Scotland because that'd be going back home. It's the home of the wind industry and there are amazing people there, for instance. That's the three stories that back up why B is so important to me. But I want a job that has A, B, C, and D in it. I've sort of almost like lost count of the number of sessions that I have one-on-one where you think that you've got this clear, and then if you chat to each other, you go, no, I'm not actually that clear. This doesn't sound crisp to me. It doesn't sound crisp to my listener. So have a think about what is your A, B, C, and D, like what you really want to have in the job. And then, and then think about what is crucial about you that should be great for them. And let's call them E, F, G, and H. And it's just like, I bring these E, F, G, and H, and I would be sort of really wanting to join an organization that appreciates these things, in fact, needs them. And then I've got wonderful stories to tell you why I'm good at those things. Be it, I've, studied a Yale course on it. I did a summer internship on it. And 3 years before I did this, and this in Costa Rica. That is my F1, F2, F3 to say why I'm really good at F. So the idea here is you're then left almost with like a master list of what's crucial about the opportunity I'm looking for and what about me should be crucial to them. Really tight reasons, really good stories. those really good stories, they might interlink, they might be similar, but the key thing is you are clear on the narrative and you don't get lost in your story. Also, if you're having a coffee or an interview, you don't go down and do A1, A2, A3, and A20 and not really sell B, C, D, and B, C, and D, or indeed on what you're sort of you're bringing to the party. You don't get lost in your own narrative. You keep it very clear. So suggested homework for you here is the idea of pitching, coming up with creating your two triangles, and then pitching them to a friend, pitching to somebody you know well. What is really interesting and great about the position you're pursuing? What might be really interesting and great about you for them? And then switch if they are also hunting, and then reflect afterward, both how did it feel to pitch, and then really hear from the listener, this is where you sounded great. This is where you sounded like on it. And then this is where you sounded a little bit off. Go back and try this. And there's a wonderful sort of idea here of learning while talking, like how did it feel to talk about it, as well as learning by listening. It's this oh, that person had a really good pitch. I'll let them know where it was good. I'll let them know where it needed improved. So that's probably the most important piece, I think, about grounding your job search. Because if you think about I'll go back one to the E, the A, B, C, Ds and the E, F, Gs, and Hs, this is the foundation of an introductory email. This is a foundation of the first Zoom call with the hiring team. This is the foundation of the interview itself. To really know what you're looking for and to really know what they should be appreciating and what you're excited to bring to them. I'm going to pause there again just to see if with Cass or Fazana, if there's any questions on getting that second P, the priorities right.
Not that I'm seeing right now.
Great. Okay, as I say, any of these resources I flash up, you can sketch it out. I imagine you can have even a better sketch than me.
There is one question, Peter. Could this be a good structure for cover letters?
Exactly. Perfect. Sorry, I meant to say that. Yes, cover letters, cover emails. The key thing I think on this, and that's a great question, is the idea of like having a master two triangles on a really big piece of paper, on a Miro board, wherever you need it, in a format that you like, to say to get these right, and then think about for the audience what do they want to hear, but keep these improved. So, for instance, on your cover letter, you might use all 8, and weave them artfully into your 2 paragraphs or whoever your career department has told you, or however the job person has said, I want a letter in this format. But you might say like, oh, but like this C about, I don't know, working in Scotland, and this job is in the Lake District or in the northern England, they don't want to know that I really want to work in Scotland. So I'll leave that one out, because that's not part of my cover letter. That that the fact that the Lake District being close to Scotland is good enough for me. But you might not use every single one in every single cover letter. That's a silly example. But to have these 2 triangles to hand as you write, as you call, as you have a chat, yes, that is a vital part of it, I think. And probably this chart is probably the single biggest thing I spend time one-on-one with people getting right. And then after that, the job search almost like, follows this. And you'll see when we get to the tactics section for the last section, how that works. On the potential side then, to move on and make sure that we get done by 1, or 1 Eastern time, depending on what time zone you're on. On the potential side, the idea is just to, to update and be clear on the destination. Again, do a lot of more work on this on your leadership life, but the idea of like vision, what does success feel like at the end of this search? I use a PQRST to write goals down and say like, I will have done this. I will have reached out to 20 people in the next 3 months. I will have had 2 coffees. And the idea is like, or 20 Zooms, is to reunite all these PQRSTs together. So write it in the past tense. By August, I will have done this. Use numbers, like I will have had 20 Zooms, 3 in-person coffees, and use qualitative as well, like that idea of like, and one person I really felt like I connected with. Be realistic, as in you can't say I will have got a job. if like that's not all in your control, but what have you pursued with effort that you can write down and say, I've successfully done this. To give you a silly example, that marathon in the desert, I never said I will have run it. I will say I gave my best shot at training and being ready for it, and hopefully, and did my best to get it done. I couldn't tell if an accident was going to happen, but I could tell how much training I could put in, for instance. Same with, I think, the job hunt with like, how many people are you reaching out to? How many follow-ups are you doing? But quality ones as well, which we'll come on to. And then make it stretchy and then make it toastable. The idea of like, you could smile, favorite drink in your hand with your favorite person, say, I did it. What does that goal look like? You are it's much more likely to happen when you write it down, whatever you do from today's hour. Write something down and say, I will have done this. So on the progress, how do you hold yourself accountable? And then I'll pivot into how do we hold ourselves, plural, accountable in community on this. So on the progress, I said I'd put my thumb on the scale at the start of the hour with sort of spreadsheets. I prefer to any other type of list. I think they work really well for this type of search. So they're easy to use, like you can, store as a database, but it's also that one-page look. So I've got a format that I'm going to sort of help you with, and we can guide through it. And then I think for Zana, not quite yet, but towards the end, we can drop in a link, and it's a Google Sheet that's not editable. You can duplicate it and create your own and tweak it to like your unique person and your lived experience and your design preferences. You can do that. But I'm going to work you through the principles right now on what I think a good spreadsheet looks like. And 28% of you or so are already onto this and have a spreadsheet. So this is just some tips on how you might want to format it. So the first thing I always say is like, put a title in that you actually want to open it regularly. Imagine the difference between, I don't know, future dream career.xls versus job. You like name it something that you think that's what I want, and you double click on it. It's sitting on your desktop. It's somewhere obvious. It's just like title it so you'll want to open it, and then maybe pull in some of the purpose questions, the why, the what am I looking for questions, those ones that resonated with you, and the ones that I didn't think about. You like put these things in that are useful to you, and get them in maybe as a tab. Then the tab that you may well have already, those 28% of you, that idea of like the list in one place. And I think this is really like a great use of Excel or Google Sheets for this. So call it the master list, maybe the pipeline, the big list, whatever it is. And then list more than the vacancies, not just the jobs you see. We're going to come on to that in the tactics in the last few minutes of like the tactics, but list way more than the vacancies. Put the standard stuff in, name, thing, sector, etc. But then get in the hard work you've done on that second P of priorities. What's crucial about the opportunity, and what of you may be crucial to them? What are you excited to bring? And then what that looks like is names, positions, context, etc. down the left-hand side, and hopefully what looks like a wonderful heat map about what's really and uniquely important to you and important to the people that you put down. And then if you sort it by the average, then you're hopefully going to get effectively, I talked about brain and gut at the start, the idea of like your gut list or your heart talking should be up in a list that is like from top to bottom. And if it's not like that, and you go, oh my goodness, this is my heart and gut on a list as a spreadsheet, then you probably haven't got the criteria right across the top, or you probably haven't got the numbers right about, is that one really a 1 to 10? Is that one really a 1 to 10? So have another coffee with somebody from that company and see if they are as good or as bad as you feared or you dreamed. But the idea is like, once you keep working on this as a list, this is a heat map and a heart and head coming together in one master list to hunt from. And that's what I call the organizations and opportunities tab on the Google Sheet that is up there in the link. And I think Farzana is putting it, maybe dropping it into the chat about now. I can't see if you can see my screen, I can't see you guys. So I'm thinking that link is in place. So that's probably the biggest pieces, I think, of redoing your hunt so that you're always hunting off the top of this list. It's by definition what you're really looking for, what might be interesting to them, And it's this constant updating of like, I need to do most of my energy at the top. I say 80-20 energy at the top of this list. Brain gut connection as a list. The second tab that you'll see in there that I also put in is collecting useful and interesting people along the way. Um, what I say there is like, for instance, people like me are not hiring necessarily, but we are incredibly supportive of what you're trying to do. You probably have, again, 20, 30 names of people that you can think of immediately that are like that to you in your life. So get them on a list too, people who matter, potentially useful connections as well as actually useful connections. And then standard stuff about their name, their position, their contacts, etc. But then rate maybe all of us in a different way. Like, how useful are we to your search? How helpful can you be to them? Other criteria that are unique to you. So you might think of things in there. I leverage the stakeholder matrix in terms of like influence on your career and supportive. Like, who are those people that are really influential and really supportive? Who are those people? And can you rate them? And then can you make sure that you keep in touch with them? Headhunters, mentors, mentees, connectors. Who are these people on the People Who Matter tab? And then two more tabs, at least before we kind of close with the last few minutes on like the idea of like of strategies and tactics, is this like two more tabs at least. I recommend a cold tab. Like if you can't bear to delete a lead that was like no longer dry or they said no or whatever, then create a tab so you don't have to look at them every day. Much more important though are the hot tabs. Might be the top three, top five. Maybe create tabs for Patagonia, for I don't know, sort of CBEY as potential employers, Google, and put them up on as separate tabs and say, like, why is that there? What's does their org chart look like? What other tabs? What other articles are there? Who's posting on LinkedIn, etc. So create separate tabs as you go deep on the top of your list. And I know we're going to be probably out of time for discussion, but maybe if we can, I'll try and come to strategies and any questions on that at the end. I'm going to kind of go straight to the sort of the idea of like strategies and tactics. The first piece to do is like know your resources. Say you're a university, like know where the library results are and searching for databases. If you've got a career department wherever you are, know how they can help you. They can help you in a variety of ways. And then in terms of the actual, like how do you do this? Question for that sort of less than ideal. The idea of like, seldom can we go straight to our dream job. How do we tack, to use the sailing analogy, to get to that thing that we really want? And then question for you in terms of waiting around for the thing that is you're totally passionate about and the thing that you become great at, and say question what order they develop. And there's quite a lot of science and research in this in terms of getting out and acting, getting in and learning, then the passion comes later. So have a think about that idea of the toggle between passion and expertise. And then probably the biggest thing that I wanted to sort of finish on as a tactic is the hustle. How do you hustle? And there's a wonderful poem from a friend of mine, Jen Grace Barron, saying that it was just like the world needs your hustle. It's up on her wall. I will try and find it in resources, but the world needs your hustle. So how do you hustle? To put our hustle in perspective, this gentleman here had a suit and a box of resumes until he got his job, standing outside in Canary Wharf in London. I think the online version of that is LinkedIn. So to hustle from the hot tab and get and work out who are the people, how do you get to them, and are they hiring already? The thing that I wanted to land most with you here is do not underestimate the power of LinkedIn. The job description that you and 100 others want has not yet been written yet for this gentleman here, Jake, who has just netted $7 million in seed funding. So getting to Jake early as one of your contacts and saying, hey, Jake, great news on your seed funding. Can I help you? Is much more powerful. Having said that, there are jobs and they do come up on LinkedIn a lot. This is my feed in this last 2 weeks. Matt Thurston from REI says amazing job alert, ... Sort of two people from Google, and I had to verify these are two separate ones, Program Manager 2 and Program Manager 3 on energy and advocacy. You can tell though by the likes, Susan McPherson and 314 others, that lots of people are seeing these, but they are out there. And then Tessa's one is even better. It's this like, hello world, can you take my job? I'm moving over here. I want to hire for my replacement. And then I comment to try and get that out as visibility to her network. But so the idea is like, yes, jobs exist if you're really on it and you know what you're looking for and you're networked with the right people. But open your radar is the idea with LinkedIn and work out where are the jobs that haven't been written yet. For instance, Chris Creed is just another one of my great friends and contacts from Department of Energy, just left to join Galvanized Climate Solutions with Tom Steyer. Wow, they're going to have some money. They're going to invest. Don't know what they're investing in yet. You might not be a good fit for it, but you might be. So can you do some research and get in touch with your friend or Chris's friend Peter in order to get to that one before it's written? Likewise, Jigger moving to Powerhouse Ventures, or Neil, who's got says, I'm moving to this, and this is what we're focusing on. The job description is embedded in his post, even though there isn't a job description. Which leads me to this sort of how do you keep the hustle and hold yourself to account on it? Is that middle three columns there? It's like in this heat list, there's a sort of have I done enough? And what I've done here is say, like, is the ball in my court or have I successfully put it over to that person? Tick. When did I last reach out? Date. How many days ago was that? It looks terrible if it's 250 days or 55 days and you haven't reached out to one of the people at the top of your list. Hold yourself to account on it. And then the final piece on this hustle piece as an individual is connecting it via, and I just posted on this yesterday in LinkedIn, the SCFE, because I'm trying to get people for all of you, the self-contained forwardable email. If you connect with me or Jigger or Chris Creed or anybody that you think, wow, they might be hiring or they know somebody that's hiring, find them and you want Peter to connect to Chris. Sending a self-contained forward email, these two articles do a great job of explaining what it is a great way of doing it. You connect with me first. We all already know each other. There's a high trust relationship. You write me a thing that says, hi, Peter, that was a great discussion. I really appreciate your offer to introduce me to so-and-so. This is why I think it would be good to take that brilliant question from earlier. Just to recap, I'm really looking for a job at the intersect of A and B, and I'm excited to bring E and F. And here's my CV attached for reference. It takes me one line to forward it and say, this person's a rock star, Chris. You should definitely chat to them. And you've said exactly what you want Chris to hear. So homework for you again, I put in optional homework in here. Who are great, reliable connectors for you? Get them on that second tab. Who do they know? Have you scrubbed their LinkedIn recently and seen who they know? Have you checked in with them as well? And said, hey, do you know that I'm on the job search? Who can you talk to? Who could they introduce you to if they had a self-contained forwardable email in their hands to forward? Again, just before this, I literally did one of those where I forwarded it. The person said yes, and then I put the two together. My job is done. These are two great people that I'm now going to chat, and maybe a job might result. So conscious with just a couple of minutes left, the idea of maybe I'm not going to dwell or spend any time on this stuff, the top things that professionals wish you knew, but just basically do your homework, have your CV reviewed, have your covering letter reviewed. This is the stuff that you hopefully already know. But the idea of going from thinking to reaching out to getting connected to getting the interview, keep these two triangles in mind. Why do I, what am I really looking for? Why? What can I be excited to provide? Why? And get that across to everybody that's on your side. There's an unbelievable amount of people on your side. And then the square that I say there's two triangles and a square that are part of this is take the time to breathe, take the time to reset. And as Lauren Schwartz say, taking care of yourself, your energy as well as your time. Have you got enough energy? Have you got enough sleep for this? Have you got enough emotional energy? Have you been out for a run or whatever you need to do to be centered? Can you focus on this? And are you bringing your life force to this work? Fifth P, and with just closing in on 1 o'clock here, is persevere. This is tricky, but don't be the person the person that's in there on red, like on their own, wishing that a person would come out of that truck and be edible. Hunt at a group or hunt on your own, but just sort of hunt, but hustle, get up there. And I want to leave you with this idea of never search alone. Who can you search with? Daniel Gonzalez is a fantastic colleague and sort of recent graduate of Yale. He writes a lot about this stuff about searching together. He's very findable on LinkedIn. He's posted, for instance, these resources for those that are hunting in climate, and he's creating green groups. Or job councils to build off the Never Search Alone book from Phil Terry about like how do you hunt for a job together. So if I was to say, put this onto one chart for you, do the work yourself, have a framework, have a structure, think about those pieces about purpose, about priorities. There's hopefully lots of tools to do it, including my free course. Put it all into a structure, put it all into one sheet, and then regroup, like you and your council, you together, research, explore, and then keep refining your story, keep refining your targets and sorting the list. Hustle together, both as a group, but also pull in those contacts that you know and people like me who really want you to succeed. Who else are they in your life? And persevere. I'm going to leave this page up. I'm conscious that I'm just a little over 1 o'clock here, or I'm one on my watch time, but I'm here to answer questions. We can go over a little bit of time here. If there's any questions, I can stay around and answer what I can. Cass, is there anybody or questions that I can answer?
I think there was only one question we missed, which was actually in reference to the triangle slide. And it was, what if the second triangle is more intangible, like age, being older, or pivoting to a different role or career path?
Let's see the second. I'm going to figure it out up here. So I think on both triangles, they don't necessarily have to be tangible. So this idea of like age, typically somebody's not hiring for age anyway, and I don't think even you can do that in the US, is that but there might be experience or variety of experience, or they're appreciating your cross-sector experience. There's probably ways to word the sort of the right hand side and indeed the left hand side in a way that is appealing to you. It resonates with you as the teller of your story, but it's also resonant, almost like career language to the listener. And again, maybe that trying it out with each other is a way to like how did that sound to me talking, and then to your colleague that's searching with you, how did it sound to you? Did that resonate? Should I word that better? That's probably a way I would recommend on this sort of, as you called it, the less tangibles.
And I guess we've had a comment here, I think we've definitely got a few participants that are not in the US, and this is obviously quite a US centric model for job searching. I guess any thoughts on that, of how can you make this most applicable within the different cultures?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, and to the extent about cultural differences. Erin Mayer, The Culture Map, is an awesome book that I'm still thinking about and pondering about a lot. Um, I think most of this, maybe my LinkedIn examples are American, maybe the fact that, I don't know, Chris Creed, Daniel Gonzalez, etc. But hopefully most of the principles are not. Like LinkedIn is in the hundreds of millions of people. The idea of going back to your purpose, what do you really want, and what are you excited to bring? Again, being culturally sensitive to how you might sell those things to the world or tell people about those. I think there's a lot of cultural work there to do, but I would challenge the person that said this is the US way of doing it to say, well, all right, let's chat offline about how do we make this a Scottish way of doing it, or whatever your nationality is that is like sensitive to that culture, because I think the way to hunt in terms of the underlying work is quite similar, and maybe the cultural, like how do you put yourself forward, is very different.
And a big thank you to those who have joined us from all over the world. I see we've got Italy and various other places. So we appreciate you taking the time at the different times of day. And hopefully, yeah, as Peter said, you can take what's interesting to you. One other question. Someone is wondering if there's anything different you would say specific to self-employment.
Wow, that's a good one. Self-employment. Yes, very different. Although a slight adaptation to say your first customers that you need. I am really looking for, I've done this with one entrepreneur, for instance, like I'm really looking for customers that have these characteristics. These customers should love the fact that I'm providing E, F, G, and H. Like the triangles can be adapted with some titles. The other thing I would say about self-employed, if you're starting a business, we do have some resources. Please do get in touch on like what are the 10 pages of a business plan that if you're starting up, what are the headings that would help you start that business up?
I'm not seeing any other questions right now.
Great. Happy to hang around for another minute or two. These are the resources. I've got to still update that link, the Boyd Hunt, but it should be the deck should be available there shortly. The Excel is copyable but not editable. And then we'll get the slides all available to everyone who registered, including the recording. Hey, thanks very much for your time, everybody. I know it's precious time in your either lunchtime or evening or breakfast, depending on which time zone you're in.
One last
So
question for
thanks so
you.
much. Yeah,
One
sure.
last question. Any advice on how to use AI in your job search? And not an easy one.
That's a great one because things are changing so differently. One thing I would say is AI is an enhanced search of like I'm looking for say you got your 4 and 4. I think generative AI would be incredibly useful. So like what kind of companies come up if I say I'm really looking for this and this? I think AI is going to be better than Google, or they're better than a normal search. Um, for that. I'd be careful, and there's quite a lot written on this, of like overusing AI in terms of crafting your cover letters, etc. It feels again as an outsider that's a beginner on advising on this as well as using it, that it's almost like a model against a model. There's going to be a bot on one side scrubbing your reference letter, your application letter, but if you've used a bot, then it might be able to tell that it wasn't you as a human that wrote it. So I'd be I'd be cautious um on that piece of like using AI to write. I would be very encouraging of people using AI to go, who have I not thought of? What kind of companies have I not thought of that could be good at these things? My eight. I think that would be where I would lean in on AI. And then I would counter all of that with a sort of imagine this hustle, this whole hustle together. It's people that are going to get you the job. Seldom a vacancy. I think like just by definition of say how many people like those job alerts, for instance, it's like yes, those jobs are around, but by definition of you seeing it at that point, hundreds of people have seen it. And then it's almost like your AI against their AI to see if you can get in. Whereas if you know Peter who knows sort of Chris, then that's interesting. I think like because then you're getting the sort of the warm intro in. So I would say like use the self-contained forwardable email, that sort of tactic, but generative AI, I think on the list side. I know we're down to less people here because you presumably people have got meetings to go to. We can still hang around for a little bit longer until that number goes down more. Feel free to keep putting the questions in the chat or get in touch on LinkedIn or via email.
Uh, Peter, do you have the link to the 10-page business plan? Was that on your link?
No, I can get that to you. Well, thanks everyone. We might wrap it up. There you go, Lisa. Thanks for the warm comments, Joey, Lisa, and others. Yeah, hopefully. Apologies if all my examples were US. That's just where I live. But hopefully the principles adapt across. And the course is in 22 different languages. So I think we're covered there on the free leadership course.